You have to set your sights a bit higher than just being slightly better than Malaysia.
I know they have Michelle Yeoh as the best actress now, but just give it to them.
Don't compare Oscar winners. We've got no chance. When it comes to Oscar winners. Welcome to part 2 of Yahoo Footballing Weekly with me, Yahoo columnist Neil Humphreys.
And me, Yahoo editor Chia Keong. And him,
Haizam from Napshot Studio.
All right.
Yes, thank you. This week, of course, part 2, we get stuck into Singapore football. And before we do, I just again want to thank you all every week, Han Keong.
Every week.
More and more comments.
Constructive comments.
Constructive. This man here, the cynic, not sure if there's enough support in local football. Every week we get more and more comments. In fact, he knows this. On the way to this podcast, I went to an international school. And as I was waiting for the taxi, big fella comes up to me. Are you Neil? Yeah. And I thought he was going to say from books, whatever. Football podcast, right? You see? So we've even got the teenagers. So thank you, each and every one of you. Good
Thanks
stuff.
very much. Yeah.
Lots of comments coming in. So as always, we get stuck into the local football comments. You want to do the first one?
Yep. Because now the SPL season starting, and then we got fans, SPL fans, Singapore Premier League fans. So how many of them? We don't know, but they are also listening to the podcast and then giving their comments. This Frankie Go, well, last week we said that there are young players in Tampines who are doing well, and then he immediately comes in. Guess what? 3 players mentioned: Eric, Glenn Quay, Joe Chiu, and Shah Sharian all play for Tampines. Plus, we got more exciting youngsters like Ryan Sanizal, Amirul Haiko, Irfan Najib, midfielders. Ong Yuan and Reza Reski, and then good imports, and then Tampines are going to win the league or something like that.
Must be a Tampines Rovers
Obviously.
fan.
But that's good, right? That's what we want.
Yeah.
But we applaud you for knowing your stuff.
So you're the first one to be cynical, but this is a true blue local fan. If he was saying exactly the same thing about Man U or Liverpool, we'd say, bandwagon jumper, support local team. He's supporting his local team. And one thing I'll say about Tampines, firstly, they're playing well. They're playing top of the league as we record this. Secondly, with Hougang now playing at Jalan Besar and Balestier now playing at Bishan, Tampines are the only team left at the moment that I see as my true blue Neil Humphreys template, which is, my obsession about local team, Tampines Stadium, Tampines Town, Tampines Connection, Tampines Community. They are the only one at the moment flying the flag of what I believe Singapore football will eventually have to look like.
I do hope they become the next privatised Singapore club. I think they have all the tools. They just need a proper sponsor.
Well, they're very much like the West Ham of the Scottish Singapore Premier League, in the sense that they have a stadium all ready to go in the way that West Ham did with the London Olympic Stadium. So similar situation. They have the facilities. They've got the community hub. They've got an inbuilt community audience ready there. Plus, as you say, they've got the representation, the connection to Tampines, which, as you know,
it's important in football.
Singapore football has been trying to overcome for almost 30 years now. They've already got it. To me, they're a shoo-in. They're a shoo-in for privatisation.
I certainly hope so. And if they do well this season, I think that should be the way the government should try to get this club going.
And just to add to that, it's no coincidence that of the few remaining club rivalries left, since we lost the uniform clubs, it's that east side thing. Tampines and Geylang have a real rivalry because they're established core fan bases in both communities.
It's like AC Milan versus Inter
and
Milan.
Historically, if you look at it, Geylang International is one of the historic powerhouses.
Yeah, they won the first ever title.
And
with our boy Fandi, right? Fandi was there.
And Tampines Rovers is also one of the so I would say the founding fathers of the S League at the back of time, and then they were one of the top clubs, coming in from
Absolutely.
So I think the Eastern Derby is really I would say a proper derby in the SPL.
Absolutely. So speaking of proper derbies, see where I'm going? Should proper derbies be played at the big stadiums? Our next comment from Zizou 49ers, thank you Zizou, says, boss, who's the boss? He must be talking to you. He must be talking to you.
Everybody.
Boss. That's because last week you were very stern with your... That clip got a lot of hits.
Exactly. I don't know.
Did you see that clip?
I saw.
You must he went into uncle mode. He's the boss this week. If it's a big game, says Zizou, please have it at Kallang Stadium. Just a suggestion.
It's a good suggestion, but then again, financial, I think it's not feasible because the crowds won't be filling up the stadium. And I think with such games, even though if they show on TV, it won't look good actually. I mean, if you want to make it historically nice, maybe Jalan Besar Stadium would be a nice place because, you know, with the facilities, the views, modern stadium look, you know, I think it's... But then again, if you're talking about Tampines, if they are playing against Geylang, I mean, it makes sense for them to play at Tampines because it's a Eastern derby. And then both of them are playing at Tampines.
Yeah, but maybe a title decider that says, let's say Sailors versus LB Rex. But still, it's still a big crowd.
Because like what Neil mentioned, like if you look at the proper derby in SPL, it's actually Geylang and Tampines. I mean, if you look at the nature of Hougang United, because Hougang United is kind of like the underdog team, and I know because I know a few of the guys from there. You know, like they're kind of like the Millwall of SPL. No, they don't like most of the teams around. And like Lion City Sailors, they were from the uniform groups, from each team, and then they don't have that uniform rival anymore. Warriors FC is no longer, so they are kind of like the Man City of Singapore. Like everybody will hate because of the money and all that. So I think with talking about this, making it to play at Kallang Stadium, title decider, it will be interesting. But then again, the idea is that will it be feasible? Will crowds come in?
I think don't mind trying. I don't mind if they try and then try out just for one, see how's the reaction and how does it look like to have not that much crowd at the stadium, because we did it with the AFF Cup during the COVID times. It's still possible if the cameras don't show the blank empty places. That's the key. But also there's the thing about the J Cho situation we had last year, because the AFF Cup clashes with the things and with the concerts and then this and that. Although I would think that now Sports Hub under new management, which is more leaning towards doing local and grassroots events, they might be better to speak against and then negotiate this kind of situation. So I don't mind them giving a try, but it's going to take a lot of work.
100% agree. I mean, two issues for me. Of course, I agree with Zizou's optimism. We'd love every game to be at the National Stadium. But there are two factors here. We all say, why can't we play more local football at the stadium? But there are two reasons why. The first reason is we're small. Space is a premium. Therefore, everything's more expensive. If you just go online and Google most expensive ticket prices in Asia, it's always us. It's always Singapore. Just two words, Harry Styles. That's all I'm going to say.
On Friday.
$300 for my daughter, Harry Styles. But that's because the rental is higher. The taxes are higher. We don't have half a dozen big stadiums. We only have one. So whether it's Harry Styles or the Lions, it's expensive. To host an event in Singapore is expensive. It's annoying, but it's a reality.
Unless if you want to go for the radical idea, going back to the days where tickets were cheap, less than $10.
But then they lose. Then it's back to the money factor. But that's why I said, I think the idea is like, I mean, Zizou, it's good. I'm not knocking on it. But then again, the realistic view is now that, like what you said, it's expensive. But that's, exactly. That's part one. Part two, can you fill the stadium? If you can't fill the stadium and you've got 5,000, which is a decent crowd for Jalan Besar, but if you've got 5,000 fans in the National Stadium,
doesn't look good.
The atmosphere is terrible. It looks terrible, and the armchair critics will love it. First chance, Tekan local football. At present, unfortunately, even the Singapore Lions, unless it's a big game, Malaysia game, SEA games, they don't get more than 5 figures usually, right? 5,000, 10,000. That's 1 in every 5, 6 seats. It looks too sparse, and it just doesn't give the positive reflection, representation, or whatever you want to call it, of the game. As it stands, 5,000, 6,000 in Jalan Besar, live, loud, volatile, or even Tampines is better, I think, in the short term. And I like your idea, case by case. If we get a big game, title decider, Singapore Cup final,
that's one. That's what I say.
But we love the enthusiasm. We love the support. We hope we can do it one day. Do you want to do the next one? Because I think I know where we're going.
It comes up again. We're just waiting for it. It comes up again. Rushyadi Rahmat, who says, what if Singapore clubs play in the Malaysian Football League again?
First and foremost, I hope you are the post-Malaysia Cup era. And not the old people, growing up maybe the 80s, like you grew up during the Fandi syndrome, like me and Keong. The model will never work, unfortunately. I'm sorry to say this. Like, it will not help Singapore football long term. It didn't work when the Lions 12 played in the Malaysian Super League. It worked back then until the C word comes into the bit, the corruption, the Keong, the K word comes in. So it's really frustrating that we had to rebrand from the S League to SPL. It's already difficult to get fans to support local football. Using this short-term injection to get team to the Malaysian Super League will not help.
Exactly that short term.
It really won't help.
It won't help. It won't help, one thing. Second thing, do you really think the Malaysia Super League with JDT is such a big draw? Would they even want to invite us back again?
Great point.
It's like, no, they won't. They are doing quite well on their own. The JDT is drawing the crowds. Their national team is doing fine. Why should I let a foreign national team come in to play in our league again? I seriously doubt that the Malaysian Super League will even think about getting us back.
I think on hindsight, maybe they will appreciate the rivalry. The fact that, because I think state teams have always step up their game whenever they play against Singapore teams. So, but then again, if we are looking from a Singapore football fan perspective, we need to look at, will it help the local football? It won't. Definitely it won't. No. I mean, I'm sorry, Saidi, I'm not knocking on your dreams, I'm not knocking on that question, but this is a debate where we need to understand the realistic that it's not helping local. Do you see Philippines sending their team to play in Malaysia, in Thailand? No. Because the thing is that you get your infrastructure correct, it will eventually grow into something beautiful. Like you look at it, JDT, TMJ did the infrastructure proper. Majority of the Malaysian national team players come from where? JDT. So and also when JDT built that infrastructure so well, the other state teams are starting to notice and improve their standards. So this is what we need to do. We cannot keep looking back. Why not?
Tinted glasses.
Why not? The why not is interesting, but then again, it's always that
times have changed.
Yeah, times have changed.
I mean, I agree with both of you completely, and we appreciate the sentiment, we do, but you can't get lost in nostalgia. It's like a Brexit interpretation of football where the past is somehow better. I'm a broken record because I was one of the few, and you can check the columns at the time, that said the Lions 12 was a bad idea. I know we had to get on the rah-rah government bandwagon, but at the time I said the Lions 12 is doomed to fail. Why? And they said, no, it cannot be, because the first few games, it was 6,000, 7,000. This is fantastic. I said, yes. But if you know football and if you go to football, and I did, and I watched the Lions 12, I'd say, you see that pocket of fans over there? They used to watch Tanjong Pagar. You see that pocket of fans over there? That used to watch Tampines. You haven't increased fans. You've just taken them away. You've taken the hardcore fan bases away from the established
and the league that times offered.
Yes. Correct. You've filtered them all into one stadium for one game. Okay, it looks good for one game. The S League nearly died, as it was called then. It very nearly died as a direct consequence of Malaysian Super League.
And we had to rebrand the S League to SPL now.
Because
after that line
it achieved nothing. It's too small-minded. It's too parochial, and it's that whole. It's that Singapore mentality I sometimes joke about, where you say, Singaporean driving is so bad. Yeah, but Malaysia's worst. Yeah, but there are other frames of reference in the planet than just Malaysia. You have to set your sights a bit higher than just being slightly better than Malaysia.
I know they have Michelle Yeoh as the best actress now, but just give it to them.
Don't compare Oscar winners. We got no chance. When it comes to Oscar winners,
the only things that close that we got is that Crazy Rich Asian thing.
That was filmed in Malaysia.
And the other one is like Chow Yun-fat was saying welcome to Singapore in the Pirates of the Caribbean. That's the only thing that closed to Hollywood.
So we give it to you. We give Michelle Yeoh.
But then again, it's like what we say, let's not look back, to the times of nostalgia. Because at the end of the day, if you look at it, even we are not playing in the Malaysian Super League, our standards have dropped. We are no longer the top dogs of Asia, Southeast Asia.
Because you rightly said, the other countries, they've looked at their own domestic leagues, whether it's Philippines, Cambodia, Myanmar, they've all improved. They're not constantly harking back to the 60s and the 70s. And they're looking forward. What do we need to do? The Philippines, active in the global talent scouting community. Is there anyone with Filipino ancestry?
Which is a lot. Lots of
course. Legitimately, bring this one back. Bring this one back. They're looking forward. They're not keep harking back to the past. If you want to talk about change, and I'd love to know what you think about this, I am actually in favour of a potential Southeast Asian Super League. Before you jump, and even though I'm anti, European Super League, I think it's very different. If you had, for example, a Southeast Asian Super League where the top 3 or 4 teams, you can decide how many, 2, 3 teams. What would it do? Firstly, it would take the 2 or 3 best teams from Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, and you put them in this one league. Straight away, you are increasing your TV revenue, your advertising, you're making more money. So then it becomes almost self-fulfilling. More money, better players, more money, and it builds and builds and builds. Also, it answers the problem we had before about relegation, no relegation. Now you've got jeopardy. Because in theory, it might involve the top 6 or top 7 teams, almost the whole league, fighting to finish in the top 4 of the Premier League, the Singapore Premier League, almost until the very end of the season. And then you say, what about the other 4 teams? Well, it's not a big jump. They only need 1 or 2 extra players to go from 5th to 4th or 6th to 4th. Then it's aspirational. That I can see. A regional Super League of the best from Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore. That could be something to look at in the future.
In a way, it's kind of like a full relegation where, like if you are in the top 3 of your league in your country, you qualify for the Super League in this kind. It's kind of like the Champions League, aka Champions League. Right? So then when your team is playing, so in a way, if you look at it, the top 3 teams who have been in that so-called Super League will have extra games. I mean, that will increase revenue. But then again, the challenge is like to sustain that momentum. If let's say you are doing very badly in the Super League and then you get relegated, and then the top 3, the team that comes from your own country, that will replace that. And I think what you had is a very interesting concept because it can work. Because if you look at it, like when you do that, you build momentum, you build the revenue, you get more games on it.
You get regional TV audiences.
And then you get that challenge of I want to strive to go to that Super League so that I can play with other teams in the region.
Correct. And the gap is not so wide. So, for example, yes, JDT and Lion City Sailors, they'll probably qualify. Albrechts becomes tricky. I think they should be Southeast Asian teams. But JDT, they'll qualify. Lion City Sailors, they'll probably qualify. But the gap for the others is not the gap between, say, Bournemouth and Arsenal. It's just the gap between 6th and 3rd, which is nowhere near as big. In other words, it's breachable. It's bridgeable. And talk about your point, finally, if you're looking at privatisation and you look at a Tampines, you think, I only need to buy in 1 or 2 more players and I've got a shot at making a Southeast Asian Super League, then it makes it much more attractive to private investors than just constantly round and round in the Singapore Premier League, no relegation, no jeopardy.
Because there's no incentive for me to do well. I'm just making up the numbers. I'm just making up to fill up that numbers. I mean, no disrespect to Tanjung Pagar, no disrespect to Young Lions, but you're just fillers or just folders for the team, for the league. So to have that momentum, like that mindset, is important because you help to there's something for me to gain.
Well, I'd love to know what you think. If you think a regional Southeast Asian Champions League of sorts, regular football would help, let us know. Do you want to do it?
Yep. Yahoo Southeast Asia on YouTube, Yahoo SG, Yahoo_MY on Twitter, and Yahoo SEA on TikTok.
Beautiful. Right, let's do this week's Roundup, the Singapore Premier League.
Yeah.
Lion City Sailors.
Oh, what a horrible week they had. First of all, they faced one of, I think, the biggest title challenges, LB Rex Niigata. Started off well.
Yeah,
and
I
then
watched it.
Yeah, started off well, very competitive. And then there was this really contentious VL decision that gave a red card to Anumantan, their midfielder.
The last man.
Yeah, the defensive midfielder, quite important to the team. Gone. And then they lost 4-0. The defense just fell apart. And even worse still, their one big signing of the season, Kodai Tanaka.
Striker.
Player of the year last year. Last time he used to play for LB Rex, now transferred big time to LCS. Suffers an ACL injury, knocking him out for the season. It's just it's just a terrible week for them, and I think if they don't get a new quick replacement, they're in trouble.
I mean, it's terrible for the Lion City Sailors. I mean, it's just terrible. You don't like to see that, the best players being injured for the season, whatever team they play for. However, it's going to make this the most open season. Tampines are top of the table.
So now Tampines are doing well, top of table. Faris Ramli has scored in every game right now. It's on like a second lease of life after he moved from Hougang.
He moved from Hougang.
So, well, good. Tampines now sees a way in.
Yeah.
And I hope they do well. They're like the Arsenal of the
The Arsenal of the
they are Arsenal of the SPL. You know, always trying. I mean, they last won in 2015 or quite a while ago.
Right.
And then they keep on coming second to LB Rex during the LB Rex years, and then now they finally
So does that make LB Rex now Manchester City?
Manchester City.
So they've changed. Last time they were a community team.
LCS are Liverpool.
I can't keep up with it.
But it's an interesting concept this season. I mean, look at the start of it, because I think when I last came, I was talking about how the start of the SPL, you know, and then the announcement Geylang has that tie-in with Men's City Football Group.
Oh yeah.
So I think with this open league, you know, momentum, I think it gets fans talking. You know, when you talk about it, then people will just like, maybe we should just check out.
Yeah.
You know, and for me, I feel that that's how you kickstart. I think coming back to the question where the Rushadi was saying, you know, like why we should go to the Malaysian Super League. Like this is the thing that we need to build.
Yeah.
You know, when start of the season, people were saying, LCS will win. You know, because they have the infrastructure, and then big 4-0 defeat, losing arguably your most important player in the season, and then, you know, suddenly people are talking like, so is that doubt comes in? You know, it's really that soap opera. Like now, Tampines is really leading, so it brings that momentum that we were talking about LCS being the hot favourites of winning the title, and now the horizon has changed.
Yeah, even Geylang, it was top of the table before Tampines took over. So.
Yeah. Well, on that point, to sort of wrap it up about local football, can't finish without talking about DPMM.
Yes.
2 games, 2 defeats. Are they about as useful as a chocolate fire guard? I don't know.
The one thing that really gets me, I mean, I'm a bit OCD a bit. And then, used to be an 8-team S-League, SPL. Just nice. Every week you get 4 matches, can play. Now you add DPMN, then suddenly have a 9th team. And then you can't, then they'll play some games, some weeks this team wouldn't play, some weeks that team wouldn't play. And then you have to, and then obviously DPMN with all that, you have to travel to Brunei to play their home games. And then, you know, all this logistical nonsense. I just feel, what's the point if they can't even challenge for the title?
I mean, my issue is, we've said this before, and this is not about DPMM or their players or their coaching staff or even their supporters, all 7 of them. I don't know how many they have in
Sorry,
Singapore.
Brunei fans.
I just don't understand the point of their being here.
Yeah.
Albirex, I get. They've got long-established community ties to Singapore, and they're a feeder team. A lot of their players end up going to other clubs in Singapore, which is great, as you mentioned already. LCS, they're Singaporean. They're privately funded, but they're Singaporean. Brunei, I don't understand. Objectively, all of the things we've talked about, identity, representation, building a community, surely a Woodlands or a Sembawang would be more useful or relevant than DPMM.
Yeah.
That's the
Who
point
in
I'm
Singapore
struggling
support
with.
DPMM? I can't get it.
I think unless the Bruneians in Singapore.
The Bruneians, the Brunei expats.
So if any
All
Bruneian
five-
fans,
all 5 of them.
Yeah.
But then here's the tricky part. It's like when you look at the inclusion of DPMM, there's always that political undertone.
Yeah, we know they bring money. They bring money
But
to the
then
league.
again, what are we talking about? Like how much of the bringing in money to the league? Like you don't see fans coming, you know, traveling from Brunei to come watch the games, you know. I mean, no disrespect. I mean, like I said, I think everyone knows here that I'm a Labs fan, you know. I don't watch local football as much as I want to. But here's the question. Like, if the team is useful in bringing money, then show us the money.
Fair enough.
Like Tom Cruise say, show me the money.
if
But then
there's
again,
not-
it's like 2 games, 2 losses, and what momentum are we talking? What quality are we bringing in?
And the thing is, for the past 3 years, we've done pretty well without them even playing.
Yeah.
Like, don't you see it? It's like the last 3 years, all of us are doing well. 8 teams all played nice players. With Lion City, you don't really need a DPMM to challenge with LB Rex for the title anymore. So
I think like what you say, I think for us really is like we have to look at the infrastructure. If we need to bring back the pioneer teams, let's do it proper. Don't invite a team just for the sake of inviting. Because I think when you get people like Keong who say that he has OCD now, have from 8 to 9 teams, you know, No disrespect. I'm not insulting. It's just, but that's the thing. If you want to bring in quality, make sure you bring in quality.
Yeah.
Rather than just bring it for the sake of bringing
Exactly.
it. Because
I
no point.
agree. I mean, let us know what you think. DPMM, they just exist, don't they? They're just there. There's no chance of relegation. They're not going to win anything. They just exist. They're like Tottenham. They're just there. They have
Daryl
no,
will be like,
they have
puzzling
no real relevance. They're just there, like Tottenham. But let us know what you think. Send all your comments and queries and questions about DPMM Brunei and Tampines too.
Yahoo Southeast Asia on YouTube, Yahoo SG, Yahoo_MY on Twitter, and Yahoo SEA on TikTok.
Fantastic. Thank you very much again, Haizam, for coming in.
Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate
Thank you again for listening. Do keep the comments coming. See you at a Singaporean Premier League game.
Before we go, the Women's Premier League is starting this weekend.
Yes.
So go out. If you want to support the women's football, go out and support them at Choa Chu Kang Stadium.
Absolutely. Good shout. Yes, get down and support the Deloitte
Women's Premier League.
The Deloitte Women's Premier League. Right, we'll see you at a men's game, we'll see you at a women's game, and we'll see you here next week. Take care.